This is from a report on BC speed limits prepared for the BC Ministry of Transportation. The majority of motorists drive at a speed they consider reasonable and safe for road, traffic, and environmental conditions. Posted limits, which are set higher or lower than dictated by roadway and traffic conditions, are ignored by the majority of motorists. This relates to something called the Solomon curve, which basically says that if traffic's flowing at a certain speed, the farther from the average a vehicle is traveling, the more dangerous it is. So, if the speed limit is below the upper limit of the safe majority, the people who do the speed limit become hazards to themselves and others. The normally careful and competent actions of a reasonable person should be considered legal. So how do you make roads safer? Well, let's go back to the report. A speed limit should seem too fast for a majority of users, or it is not a maximum limit.
Speed limits improve safety. In some cases, after careful analysis, raising the speed limit is the safest thing to do.
Well, we have analysis. If you look at the 1997 Parker study, where they raised or lowered various speed limits all across the US and then sampled 1.6 million cars, vehicle speeds really didn't change much. But here's the kicker. Crashes went up where the limit went down, and crashes went down where the limit went up. You heard that right. Higher limits meant fewer crashes. Here in British Columbia, raising the limit from 90 to 100 lowered the crash rate by 12.9% and 8.6% in their two test phases. So with all this evidence, what's the government done? On the Sea to Sky Highway, they improved the road from a dangerous 2-lane windy road to a 4-lane concrete median highway, didn't change the speed limit, and increased enforcement. Listen to them justify it.
The Sea to Sky is of particular interest for law enforcement since it was upgraded for the Olympics. ICBC says accident claims along this stretch of road are down, but the risk of a deadly crash is deceptive.
This highway, people feel like, well, the highway is safer, the design is better, perhaps I can go fast.
Yes, you can go faster. Don't you get that physics doesn't change?
And frankly, physics hasn't changed.
Damn it, that's my point.
If you go faster than the speed limit, if you're traveling well in excess, you are at more risk of getting into an accident.
Now that is a giant pile of not what the engineers said at all. This report listed dozens and dozens of roads where the speed limits should have been raised in 2003. As an example, in Winnipeg, the engineers went to the city and said, hey, look, you should raise the speed limit along whatever stretch of road. And the city took the recommendation off their website, ignored it, and continued ticketing people. Still think speeders deserve what they get? But even though modern cars are much safer, speed limits generally haven't changed, and many are even lower. Why? As it turns out, governments and insurance companies make money from traffic fines. A lot of money. Now, the media. The media can screw things up two ways here. First, they just automatically blame speed, and second, they get facts wrong. For example, if you have a story that contains...
At this point, we are not ruling out either alcohol or speed as factors.
You can't start your newscast with...
The deadly result of 4 young men in a car going too fast. Abbotsford police are trying to determine if alcohol was also involved.
You do realize we can rewind TV now, right? And where did you get it as fact that they were going too fast?
Are you sure it was
the police?
Are you sure it wasn't nothing?
Oh, yeah.
Next story.
The Lions Gate was closed for 7 hours when a speeding car spun out of control and slammed into a transit bus. Brian Coxford has more.
Curb lane 75, center lane white car 88. That's our record. 91. Everybody's been speeding. We haven't seen a single person that was doing the speed limit here.
Police radar couldn't track any drivers except a bus that were doing the speed limit.
Okay, let me stop you right there. I assume that in order to be a traffic cop and a reporter, you need to be able to both count and read at the same time consistently. So, when you point us to a yellow sign, you have to know that yellow signs are advisory speeds in higher speed limit areas. Speed limits are white, like this one seen here a few seconds earlier in your story. Now, excessive speed in BC is more than 40 over the limit, and this sign says 60. So when Sergeant Krumsky says
91, so that's an excessive there. He could get towed for 7 days, impounded for 7 days, and a $368 fine for that.
It says several things. 1. It looks like he would have illegally seized someone's car. Even if the limit is 50, your true speed laser unit isn't accurate enough for you to be sure he was excessively speeding, so you'd be charging him with something that you're not sure he's guilty of. And it's situations like this that are the number one argument against immediate roadside impoundments. 2. Nobody who worked on this story paid any attention to the facts. 3. The cops are likening the ordinary safe actions of everyday drivers, like this guy doing 69,
Giggity giggity.
with the one idiot that loses control at night and slams into a bus. And the media are perfectly happy to parrot that narrative without doing a shred of investigative journalism or fact-checking on their own. What's worse, the cop's narrative at the end now just looks terribly contrived.
You show up on a Sunday morning to tell them that their 18-year-old son is dead. Something of that sort. I've done that, and it rips your heart out. You never forget it.
Yes, Sergeant Kraviansky, if you only ticketed more afternoon commuters, those stupidity-induced teenage late-night fatalities wouldn't have happened.